Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper that is related to 1st June 2016. The first article is related to the recent Obama's visit to Hiroshima. In this context, what are the initiatives recently taken towards nuclear disarmament? Now, the Obama's visit, though short of an apology to Japanese, it has all the symbolism where US took a moral responsibility. So in this context, Obama's hug to Hibakushi, that is a survivor of the atomic bomb, and a speech for moral responsibility for a nuclear-free world. And all these show that the United States is, or at least the President Obama, he wants to strive for a nuclear-free world. Now, but however, his effort towards the nuclear-free world is filled with consistencies due to real politics playing around. So, the World War II wounds and the competitive race for weapons and the basic instinct to conquest. So these are the various things which are putting the nations towards the race for nuclear weapons. So here, Obama, after 3 months came to presidency, gave a speech in Prague, and this is the basis for his Nobel Prize, in which he has called for a world without nuclear weapons, or a rethinking about the nuclear weapons in the 21st century. So why is it was done? Because previous century, or at least previous half the decade, the nuclear weapons were confined to two superpowers in the Cold War era. Now, later, they were expanded to the Asian continent. Now, in this case, there is every chance that the nuclear weapons can fall into dirty elements or terror elements. Then, the strategic deterrence, or else mutually assured destruction, these are all the doctrines which we had with us. They are not going to be workable. So in this context, the country shall strive for a nuclear-free world. If it has to be strived, the country shall overcome the basic instinct of conquest, and also they shall have a moral courage to escape the logic of fear in order to pursue this goal. So in this case, what the Obama did over these 2 terms of the presidency, the first thing is there are some inconsistencies. The first is related to the start. So that is strategic arms reduction treaty between United States and Russia. In this, the total missile launchers have to be reduced to 800, warheads to 1,550. But however, since 2010, there is no significant progress on the start, especially the Ukraine crisis have come up. Almost the Russia and US are no more on talks. And the second thing is, the nuclear security summits were initiated by Obama. So here, the dialogue is not very broad-based, but it was confined to safeguard the nuclear material which is available for civilian use, as like radioactive isotopes in cancer treatment or in various laboratories, etc., which the terror elements can use to prepare a dirty bomb. Especially plutonium is more susceptible. In these nuclear security summits itself, President Obama has expressed the tactical nuclear weapons of Pakistan and the nuclear weapon with North Korea can pose a danger to the world. Now, but however, there is no strong action can be taken against these countries. Next is the regional policies or politics, if you observe. Now, if you take the Japanese situation itself, so after the Second World War, Japan renounced its war and became a pacifist country. Now, during the Second World War, Japan is known for its various atrocities in the Korean Peninsula, especially in South Korea and also in China. So now China and South Korea objected to this, saying that Japan cannot escape its guilt by claiming a nuclear victimhood, by saying itself as a victim of nuclear bomb. Again, Japan cannot move away from its pacifist actions. Now recently, when Shinzo Abe became the president, now he started becoming more assertive. Japan is becoming more assertive. They have changed their nuclear doctrine, and also they have changed their defense doctrine, which says that the Japan, if necessary, can help its friends outside its boundaries. So in this case, it is claimed that Japan is trying to renounce its pacifist nature. And the United States, it has its presence, 30,000 plus troops presence in the Korean Peninsula. One way it is good, the other way it is bad. On the good side, it is making these countries to keep themselves away from nuclear bombs. The Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, all these are dissuaded away from the nuclear weapons because the America is providing for the necessary security cover to these countries. Now, NPT is one international doctrine to reduce the non-proliferation. But however, it has its own weaknesses. Only 5 countries are recognized as the nuclear weapon states. Now, Israel, North Korea, India, Pakistan, they are one or the other way they possess the bombs. So it means the expanded nuclear weapon states are not reflected in this. And the non-proliferation treaty was also unable to stop the proliferation. So in this context, it has outlived its utility. So in the Cold War era, the focus area, action area was Europe. Now it was more and more shifting to Asia, especially with regard to the nuclear issues are concerned. So in this context, creating a nuclear-free world, an ambition, is filled with various contradictions. One among this is Obama's government itself has authorized modernization of its nuclear heads with $1 billion of investments. And second thing is, in the nuclear posture review, America has clearly said it wants to, or it will go ahead with the first use of the nuclear bomb or nuclear weapon if necessary. It did not denounce its first use policy. So from these circumstances, we can say a complex years are ahead of us. Now coming to the Rajnath Singh interview. So I'm making a statement, please remember very carefully. Now, a democracy depends upon sound democratic institutions. Any society which wants to have longevity has to maintain the respect of these democratic institutions. So in this case, criticizing the institutions and individuals representing the institutions without any supportive statements will ultimately lead to the weakening of the democracy. Now, once a government comes into power, it becomes a representative of all of us, not a section of the population. And Prime Minister becomes as the head of the government, he represents all of us, not a particular section of the population. So we have to believe that and we have to live with that. And the second thing is, he also spoke about social media and its regulation. And the third thing, autonomy for the investigative agencies. If you talk about CBI, Enforcement Directorate, they function under the central government. He says that the investigative agencies need autonomy. Now, this is a very beautiful article. Now, under Right to Education Act, what we are doing is, we are providing for maximum expenditure on a government school as a fees to the private schools for 25% of the people whom it takes from neighborhood who have no affordability to pay. It means right to education concept has brought in right to education has brought in a concept called neighborhood school. So in this neighborhood school, the 25% of the seats have to be reserved for people from various other classes. So, who are not affordable to pay. On behalf of them, government will pay to the school and the fees decided is maximum expenditure incurred in a government school. So in this case, the choice is getting reduced for the people. That's what the market economists argue. So that is what is called school choice. Giving an opportunity for the parents to take the alternatives to decide on the schooling of their children, we call it as school choice. So what Milton Friedman argues is this. Parents can be given a monetary coupons which they can avail to their advantage when they admit a child in the school. So because of this, by that monetary coupon, they can decide where they want to send the school, either to a private school or a governmental school. Now, in this context, government shall act as a coordinating agency by providing for necessary standards, regulations, infrastructure, etc. Now, let's see the counter argument to this. The choice for disadvantaged groups can only be fulfilled with their capabilities. But as their capabilities are low, the choices are also expected to be low. That is one thing. And the second thing is, we have weaker sections who are functioning. What these weaker sections are relatively the availability of the private schools in villages where the weaker sections live is very rare. So the access of the private schools in rural areas is another major concern. And the educational outcomes of low-paid private schools and the government schools is not very remarkable. And another thing, we need to understand education is not just about giving a commodity. Education is about imparting an experimental knowledge, a value system into the mind of the child. If you want to give the services by the market, we have to standardize and we have to create norms. In this, the outcomes will be more determined by the marks of the child rather than his creative understanding or inculcation of the values. The entire school system's focus shifts away from the value system to the marks-oriented education system. So these are the challenges we need to face in a market-led system. Finally, the question is very simple. Do we like to convert education a saleable commodity, a value a saleable commodity? So now where this topic fits in, that is state versus market. Now coming to core sector growth. Previously there is a question, what are core sectors? Now the core sectors consists of cement, steel and various energy sectors, coal, natural gas, petroleum, refinery, all this comes under the core sectors. Now this core sector in April, it has given a growth of 8.5%. And what are the reasons for this growth? The low base effect. Base effect means we compare these growth rates on a year-on-year basis. If the base, or in the last year if the growth is less, as comparison itself is on a low base, this year's growth appears to be much higher. As the growth is high on this year, next year if you compare, the base is already high, the growth appears less. So in this context, the low base effect and also better performance with regard to refinery, cement and steel industries, this have led to better core sector growth. And next is GDP growth. There is something called index of industrial production. So the core sector growth is a part of the index of industrial production. Now GDP growth in this last quarter, it has shown to the highest, that is around 7.6%. Sorry, 7.9%. So it shows that there are signs of revival. But what are the concern areas? The private sector investment did not grow and exports are have not picked up. Agricultural and construction growths are less. It means that employment generating growth sectors, growth in employment generating sectors is not very high. Now coming to APEC, you know that Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation is the 21 countries. And India wants to be a part of this. And what criteria India wants to be a part of it? Its geographical location and the level of economic engagement with the existing members and its size of economy. On this basis, India has applied to be a member of APEC. But what the APEC is expecting from India is lowering of its industrial tariffs, which will hurt the Indian economy. So in this context, so as the Prime Minister is about to make a visit to United States, APEC discussions may come up, and the Commerce Ministry has recommended that we shall not compromise on these tariffs. So this is what is the article for discussion. So these are two articles. Now coming to Indian Express, they are not giving the download button now. I wrote a mail to them. Once it is resolved, then we can continue with the Indian Express discussion. Thank you very much. All the best.